has returned and he is no longer a guy. He seems to be pleading in an odd way. President Trump demands that interest rates be lowered by 100 points or 100 basis points, claiming that the Federal Reserve is a mess. We are the first to advocate for a rate cut by the Fed by, I'm not sure, but by a lot more than he's implying. The Federal Reserve is currently lagging behind people, and that's all right. We are aware that we are not blind. However, they will make cuts when the time comes, and they will be emergency rate cuts, such as swift and significant ones, right, when the time comes. Trump is yelling at the Federal Reserve right now. Isn't that correct? Has this been done by any previous presidents? I'm not sure, and I don't believe so, guys. Personally, I'm not sure. However, that's a little odd. He seems to be pleading with the Fed to lower interest rates. Why does he desire this so much? And what does he know that we don't? After all, he's a businessman, isn't that right? He cuts 100 basis points, which would undoubtedly push stocks and cryptocurrencies to the top of the market. Correct. Too late, he says literally. He doesn't stop calling. It's subliminal programming, in case you haven't noticed. He explicitly states, this is all about the markets, by the way, and how cryptos will be affected due to this, quote unquote, it is too late. Powell is correct when he says that Jerome Powell, the Fed's chair, is the best name he has ever given him. That's a little odd, isn't it? Why would someone be too late? The reason is that something happened earlier and they're on the scene to make things right. A little odd. Trump, we are aware of your actions. It makes sense. They always say it right in front of you. It is a catastrophe at the Fed. 10 rate cuts have occurred in Europe. We haven't had any. Our nation is doing very well in spite of him. Aim for a complete point. It's going to be rocket fuel, he says. Isn't that crazy? The exact thing we discussed, guys. The game is over as soon as the Fed begins printing money and lowering interest rates. The S-coin rank 5,000, 10,000, and every other altcoin known to man could be purchased. It makes no difference. Every altcoin that has ever existed will soar in ways you never could have predicted. Correct? Because of this. Positional fuel, not just a little bit, but to the extent of, I'm not even sure, thousands, millions, and trillions, correct? That is the extent of the Federal Reserve's power when discussing markets and the extent of current manipulation. But once more, Trump is currently manipulating the Fed. I take it that the Fed is unwilling to take any action. By the way, it's too late. Jerome Powell is most likely waiting for Black's game to start. The markets will then rocket to heights never even imaginable when they begin cutting heavy, and then printing. It is said to be strong. In May, the US economy added 139,000 jobs, which was more than anticipated. All right, most likely the data has been manipulated. Who knows? However, the unemployment rate recently appeared. He goes, the actual number was 4.2%, the previous was 4.2%, and the predicted was 4.2%. And I believe that the Fed hasn't taken any action yet because they genuinely want the economy to go into a terrible state. Again, though, I suppose that things are going well for the time being. Trump claims that high job figures, a strong stock market, and billions coming in from tariffs are all happening at the same time, correct? Guys, we'll be discussing Bitcoin in a moment. What is it and how does it work? This is a V-shaped recovery, isn't it? And I believe that's because of all the news that was out today, which is peculiar. When Trump enters the picture, we would drastically lower interest rates if the Fed were to cut too late. The amount of debt that is due is both long and short, and he holds the Biden folks responsible for this. In essence, he's causing enormous financial losses for our nation. He's mad at this point, aren't he? He's yelling as loudly as he can that according to President Trump, his choice for the next Fed chair will be announced shortly, correct? But according to the Fed, Jerome Powell's term doesn't expire until 2026. It's strange since Trump is already getting ready for a replacement, even though that was most likely the year of the crash. Then why is all of this occurring in the first place, correct? Trump will then seek smaller rate cuts from the Fed to further devalue the dollar because of the fictitious dispute between the Fed and Trump, right? So, gentlemen, is this a full-fledged show to start printing more money? Thus, President Trump's, this is what's on my second screen, a crucial first step in regaining economic autonomy and thwarting inflationary tactics is the chair declaration. While unfavorable rules hindered crypto innovation under Biden's tenure, Trump's leadership through the NAC's crypto reserve emphasizes financial independence and blockchain dominance. The future Fed chair should share this vision. It's interesting that the next Fed chair should support cryptocurrency. I'm completely optimistic about this, guys, in blockchain technology. Cutting back on careless spending will stabilize markets and unleash the potential of cryptocurrency in America. Years are spent by DC bureaucrats, growth and sabotage Trump's choice will undo their harm and ensure that the dollar remains the dominant currency and that cryptocurrencies become the cornerstones of American power, replacing the weakness of the Powell era, correct? At this point, Trump is essentially accusing the Fed of being responsible for everything. He also hopes for a change. To reiterate though, I find it a little strange that he is pleading with me right now. I'm not sure, but he most likely understands what he's talking about now. Get some good news here perhaps. Trump assists in setting up a photo. Trump plans to speak with Musk on Friday in order to negotiate a deal. All of this is a sham for the markets, I suppose, as ACS officials will meet with Chinese officials on June 9th in London to discuss a trade deal. Take a look at that. LDN is where it all starts. It all begins in London, folks, and June 9th is a date to monitor and keep your eyes open, because if this turns out well, the markets will soar. It's that easy, isn't it? It's strange that after the drama, Trump allegedly claims at random that the US and China are far ahead of Monday's negotiations, since the Chinese president has agreed to resume the flow of rare earth metals in the SECC. Take a look at that. Therefore, for guys, June 9th is the external event to keep an eye on. And we'll see how that turns out. The stock market in particular is already embracing this, very green men. Suddenly, the most popular call option is the price of $300,000, 0 cents per Bitcoin by the end of June. It will arrive. Therefore, it is just astounding how many individuals are either anticipating that Bitcoin will reach a very high price in the upcoming months or are craving for it as of right now. Guys, everyone thinks we're going to get higher. We'll investigate that. Here, 300K. Guys, in order for this to occur, we must enter a parabola. Yes, and this is the current Bitcoin strategy. Look at that then. I take it that it's maintaining support. Guys, I haven't moved these lines. This happens every day. The daily chart shows this. Because of the blocks and mini slongs on events, a V-shaped recovery, we were able to break through it. Didn't we, guys? Hold is the deal. These levels were most likely ready to go, but to be quite honest, this is the only level I'm now considering. Guys, you break yourself, you break this level. If we break this threshold or come close to this price point, we will be rejected 4 times. Indeed, the all-time highs are very likely approaching. All right, there is only one level to be aware of, and that's about 105K. All right, at this point, I'm not sure if it will surpass that threshold, and it's the weekend, folks. This explains why volatility and volume are low at this moment. This implies more volatile behavior, which is most likely manipulation. That's all I would look out for in a guy. All right, well, but this Bitcoin graphic was tweeted by the cryptocurrency's Jim Cramer, who is calling for the cryptocurrency's demise. We're probably not going to do that if he's saying this is capital, guys, right? However, we must surpass this moving average, shall we? I believe this SMA to be a smooth moving average, but the 10 SMA folks are at one edge of 5K once more, correct? You saw how it provided help so many times, several times, but when it finally did, it was regarded as resistant, correct? So if we surpass this price range of 15K, correct? In addition to the moving averages, attempts to keep it down, it most likely returns. Take a look at that. Yes, precisely. Take a look at that resistance. We'll be all set. If we surpass the sub-level, I believe that everything will be quite bullish. Yes, particularly in light of the outside news that will be released on June 9th regarding trade discussions with China and other such matters. Therefore, be on the lookout for that. In addition to the fact that they are pumping every bullish narrative that exists. Bitcoin treasury company for Bitcoin in every new S3 filing. Trump media registers up to $12 billion, 0 cents in new securities. Correct. Take a look at this. More than $12 billion, 0 cents. Yes, from reliable crypto. He's essentially stating that 93K to 97K is the next